Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ahsoka series review, episode 5. I am the number one Kylo Ren fanboy, Travis Snell, and I am joined by...
The Finding Nemo, Taylor Field.
Yes, and we are about to break down... Well, it's Cantina Boys bringing you the breakdown episode 5, and that goes a little something like...
Yeah, but come on, touching his, like his belly. It's like, ugh.
Yes, just Taylor and I. Maybe Kirkland next week. Kirkland.
I got no faith in that anymore. I think he's out.
Who knows? Kirkland's mom might report back to him. Kirkland's mom, Kirkland's being a little rat. He's running out saying, "Oh, they're asking about you," but no, we're happy you listen. You're more dedicated than listening than Kirkland. You ask Kirkland what you listen to. He's like, "Oh, I don't know. I think I listen to that." No, I can't actually. He always messaged us. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't say that." But we welcome everybody. Kirkland listen, Kirkland's mom, and everybody in the Star Wars community. And yes, we have a big episode to break down, so we're gonna get right into it as usual. How we do a non-spoilers reaction, breakdown, and then we're gonna take a little ad break, and we'll let you know, hey, we're gonna take an ad, go into spoilers, and then you'll be good to bow out. But I think everyone tuning this will probably be already have watched it, but we'll just give our overalls just in case, because you never know, right? So, Taylor Phil, where can they find everything we do?
Ladies and gentlemen, with your internet connection in the search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base, GeekVerse Cast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Yeah, everything you need to know is down below. How to support us, where to find us on video and audio. If you like what we do, head over to Patreon, because you can do things like get episodes ad-free and early, get exclusive episodes. You can vote in our Halloween retrospective poll. We got some stuff recording this weekend. I don't think we promoted, but soon our Planet of the Apes retro is starting. It's starting really early because the movie's supposed to come out in May. Hopefully it still does, but either way, you're going to get that nice and early. So lots of good things popping up there. So if you like us, just please go over there and hit that. And if not, just go subscribe and, leave a nice review and a nice good 5-star. If you don't want that, then don't worry about it. But yes, we're about to talk about episode 5. So last weekend was a big one. Now we can talk about a non-spoilers portion. Obviously it ended with Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds, and you get Hey Snips and Anakin is there. So there's been lots of build up. I say this is definitely one of the most, I would say for Disney Plus, it's probably the most built-up episode. I don't know what that results in viewing and ratings, but the other episodes, it felt like they were bigger after the fact, right? Like when Luke came, it's like, oh, Luke came after and we got excited, right? I'll take that back. I still will say, actually, the premiere of Obi-Wan was probably more anticipated because we had waited so long. That movie got delayed. This turned the show. So other than the premiere of Obi-Wan, I don't know what's more anticipated than this. So Taylor, I'm going to start with you. What did you think about this episode overall, and obviously non-spoilers, but some big themes they hit on, what they did with Anakin Skywalker, etc.
Oh man, this was just beautiful. It was artistic. It was just cinematically. I was so absorbed in everything that was going on. This is absolutely something I would have loved to have seen on the big screen. I'm so jealous of those few individuals that got to go to those select theaters and experience this, because the score, the action, the intensity was just brilliant. This is like, I was already so excited coming out of the gate with how this series premiered, and now here we are, episode 5, and I really would have to think long and hard about all the Star Wars content we've gotten on Disney Plus, but this has just really taken the cake for me. I was not expecting a majority of these things that we got to see and experience in this episode. It was just like, not full on fan servicey, but like for me as a Star Wars fan, like they knew exactly how to tickle my itch, as I'll say. So hot damn, there were moments where I was genuinely just like, I know I had my wife and my child next to me, but I felt like I was just totally like alone in this.
Shut up! Don't talk! Shut the fuck up!
I just felt like I was just completely taken out of this like my home, and just like in this other, like, just I was just there. I was in this moment just watching this. It was incredible. And I think my wife said something too, like she was looking at like, Taylor, I can see something in your eyes there.
Stop yelling, please.
There's one moment in particular which was just really calming, and the score kicked in. And it's not a spoiler, but it's the Force theme, and whenever that theme kicks in, like
Fucking Tony Stark showed up. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, it feels like it's just been so long ago since we've actually been able to hear that Force theme, and just when you have those real slow moments and it's calming, and that theme just kicks in, and it's just like, oh God, this is good shit. And again, like there were so many things that were happening. It just kept one upping, and when you see a scene and it's just kind of unfolding before your eyes, and as a Star Wars fan, you know what this is. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to see this. You just get this moment of disbelief in the fact that I never thought I'd get to see something like this. They just keep jerking you around at times as a Star Wars fan, but finally it's like, no, you wanted something. Well, you waited 4 episodes. Here you are. You're finally getting something like this for 4 episodes and like 5 other seasons of other shows and whatnot. But I could go on and on and on, but I have to stop myself now so that we can get into the spoilers, because there's so much to unpack. It's a beautiful episode. If you haven't seen it, you need to. I feel like this is just an incredible visual experience that so many Star Wars fans hopefully will be able to enjoy, because it takes the best of Rebels, it takes the best of just what we're familiar with in Star Wars, and it throws in a great bunch of nods and things that you can really appreciate and get behind. So there you go.
Well, people love Cantina conversations because I feel like there's always such a difference. Excuse me. There's always such a difference in the way we feel and how we look at Star Wars and tackle it. And I'm happy to say, if you like Cantina, it's going to be that exact same way. So here's where I am. Last week I had a bunch of stuff where I didn't want them to do. And if you listened last week, so I'm just jumping around it, but they didn't do that. So the cons and negatives I have, there's nothing huge. It wasn't like a big fumble. It wasn't like man, this is really bad. It's nothing like that. I think luckily they stayed within a realm, which I'm very happy about. I'll make a Blade Runner reference in a second here, because I like what was done with certain things. Not everything has to be explored. I also just think that I will push back on you saying like, oh, it's not just a bunch of fan service. I think primarily, and everyone knows he's here. Everyone's listening to this knows what I'm talking about. The Anakin thing is just fan service. It really is. It didn't really amount to much. You get to see a lot of cool shit, and there's a lot of great imagery. So it's a thing. If you like Star Wars stuff that's cool, that checks every box. And if you're just watching for that, absolutely great. If you want it for that, oh, fuck yeah moment, you get that. If you're looking for story or character development, the stuff that we talked about last week, we're like, oh, they could do this, Nothing is not done. And the way they try to progress the story with Ahsoka, one, I don't think rang true the best. I don't think it really hit a home run with what they were trying to do. It was an odd take they had. It was kind of like they were trying to force a square peg in a round hole with Ahsoka. Like, I don't think she needs this lesson per se. And then how they taught the lesson was just very anticlimactic. I liked what they did at first, but then it was just kind of rinse and repeat. So I think, and I will say this is a positive, people might think this is hyperbolic, but I think this is the best acting Hayden Christensen's done in a Star Wars project ever. I think that's maybe because he's had some years. It's also because you have maybe, I don't know about Filoni, but like George, as you said before, he doesn't really care about actors, not in a mean way, just like he's about like, say the lines, let's do the stuff. So I think this is the most I've actually ever seen Anakin, and maybe it's because in that era, but I've always said that Hayden Christensen in the movies and Anakin Clone Wars do not mix. Those characters do not go together. They're not the same character. I don't care what anyone says. This is the first time where it actually felt like, oh, hey, I can see shades. This doesn't help the prequels. The prequels still where they are, but I could see the shades. Oh, that's Hayden Christensen in both those roles, both those personalities. So that was cool to see, and we'll get more into that. So, I think it honestly was like I would say a swing and the miss. I'd still pass it. I still think it was good. I do think we're getting to that realm of, hey, like we are only 3 episodes away, and now it's like there's a lot to do. Luckily, it sounds like there's a season 2, so I'm not as with the Marvel stuff, I'm always a bit more worried because they're usually one and done. If there's a season 2, that's fine. You can leave some stuff hanging, and we know we have the movie and everything. So yeah, I think it's a kind of a swing on a miss of being like an all-time great thing. I think there's cool stuff. I think there's a lot of wallpapers, like phone wallpapers people are going to use. I think if there's lots of fan service moments for if you love Clone Wars, if you love the Anakin character. And I think there's still great moments. The fans like, oh, still this is cool, but I was wanting a little more meat on the bone, and unfortunately, I think they just kind of went for the look hype, but not the actual feel hype. I don't think there's anything story wise, and maybe you'll disagree. And we'll talk about, but I don't think there's anything big and really take away from it. So, and even just other minor things from the World Between Worlds thing. So yeah, I like I said, it was good, but it didn't deliver that. Oh man, it's kind of like what I talked about last week, where I got to see how they continue. And I don't think this was a huge home run, and this doesn't get me that excited for the next 3 episodes because I feel like we're gonna maybe not end on a cliffhanger, but it's gonna be very. I don't know. I feel like this season right now, last week was great. I feel like it's in the realm of like a 7 out of 10. And that's where that's where my expectations are. That's fine. But I was kind of hoping for a little more after last week. But it could have went a lot worse. As I said last week, they could have done some things that made it really bad. And they didn't. They showed restraint on some things, not on some other ones. So do you have anything to say before we break down this episode and get into the spoilers?
Negative.
Okay, so yeah, you're going to want to tune in. So we're going to take our first ad break, and then we'll be right back talking about all those juicy spoilers. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So yeah, let's just start with Anakin. I was talking for a bit. You go. Where do you want to go with him first, Mr. Skywalker?
I'm glad that it turned out to be a complete just dream sequence, like I was thinking last week.
Like, yes, from a
She
certain
did not.
point of view.
She didn't actually go to the World Between Worlds or anything like that. I feel like she was still.
Is that
like,
not the World Between Worlds though? That's still the World Between Worlds.
I think it was all in her mind, and somehow through the Force, so you can interpret. There's many different interpretations in here, but I'm taking the W that it was still all in her head. It wasn't really a Force ghost. It was not an Anakin from another thing, even though we were kind of like maybe second guessing it and thinking like, oh, well, this was because I will say I redact what I said about the scar missing and the lightsaber stuff because the darkness of that episode, yeah, holy shit. So that's a whole can of worms. But Anakin though, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. Just how they. We'll get into how he kind of transforms and everything that goes through that whole process with Ahsoka. But Anakin, when he's introduced here, I can see where you're standing on how it did not really serve the overall story. It did not add to more development for our character. But I would disagree with that to a point because I do feel like this being in her mind, it was more or less the damage and the negativity that Baylan kind of casted out on her, and so her being in this moment of self-reflection and kind of since Anakin was on her mind, it just kind of populated and she was able to overcome this very damaging and negative kind of tone concept that Baylan put out onto her, like your legacy is that of your master, death and destruction and all that kind of stuff. So I think this serves as that because this serves as that bridge and form of development for her character because she overcame it. And I mean, heck, she's even rocking the white Jedi robes now to kind of show that she's overcame it and she's ascended.
Well, because I felt like we talked about, and this is what was very peculiar, where the whole theme of this show has been so far that Ahsoka walks away, right? Even her character, she walks away from Jedi Order, walks away from Anakin, walked away from Sabine once. They didn't touch upon any of that. The theme of this story was that she has to fight and choose not to die. And I just felt like, one, that's not a story they're telling because Ahsoka's not like a suicidal, like looking for death. Like, I'm just going out there to go. Like, they've never been like, Ahsoka's so dangerous. She's putting her life on the line, like willy-nilly. It's like, no, she's just like fighting as usual. And if it's literally just she has to fight to stay alive, it's like, so that's just such the most boring, like 5th grade old person can think of like,
oh, that, though.
Is it though? How is it more?
It's her realizing that what Baylan was casting on her death and destruction, it's not about that. It's her taking what she learned. Yes, she was trained to be a soldier in a different part of, like in the different part of this time when Jedi were being trained in war, she had to take that and realize that it's not about death and destruction. It's about being able to survive and being able to handle these things. And I think that's really great because she was reflecting on that and the things that Anakin was trying to teach her, and how, again, like Anakin's like, yeah, okay, we're going back to square one because you're not really getting it what I'm trying to teach you here. And I like that. And it's neat how that flips from the negative notion that Balin instills on her, because it's not all negative, and I think that's what he's kind of implying too. Like, oh, your master taught you only the shitty things, how to be evil and whatever. Like, he was, you're a reflection of that, but she's not, and she might obviously have a lot of guilt on her conscience because she left him and he turned and all that kind of jazz. And so for her to kind of overcome and realize that there was goodness in the things that he taught her, and now he could, and taught her how she could be better than him to a degree even, and not make that kind of final killing executionary blow. I just feel like if she truly was death and destruction, she would have killed Anakin in that scene, just like succumb, whatever, be like her master. But she rose above. I don't know if I'm making any sense or I'm just
No,
babbling.
I get what you're saying. I think it's just my problem is that's not the story other than Balin saying that at the end of last week. I don't think she's been struggling with this death and destruction thing that much. They might be trying to say, oh, it has been, it's just been underneath, but I don't think they've done enough to flesh that out. And I feel it's different if we were to pick up with this character directly after the prequels, but because we've been around her with Rebels and now a little bit here and a Mandalorian, I haven't got that sense of, man, there's such dread around Ahsoka. Like, she fucking smiles multiple times in Mandalorian Boba Fett. Like, she's like a character that, like, she's telling Luke, like, you're just like your father. You're gonna, I just never got the sense of any time what they're putting down in this episode had happened in the past. Other than, yeah, Balin says that at the end of last week, but that's like a quick resolution. Like, and I think I hate that how they resolve the problem is just they keep fighting. And I think that was really boring for me. Of like, I like the fight, but I think Anakin and Ahsoka could fight once. That's cool. But the fact that they had like 3 separate fights, it's like, again, all the stuff we talked about, like and maybe it's not his Force ghost and it's a thing of her mind, so I guess that's why Luke doesn't come up, but it's just strange that doesn't come up. And like you said, where, oh, she has this guilt, they barely even talk about the Vader thing. It's almost like they added like they did, but I mean, like, they did the Anakin stuff, and then like, oh shit, we didn't put the Vader suit in there. We should do that. And some of the voices, like, I feel like it didn't actually play that big of a key role there as far as her guilt, because people talk about like, oh, this guilt of her leaving him, but that's not what it was about. It was about her being a leader and choosing to live and all this death and destruction, I guess. But even then, again, I just don't think there was a sense of that dread from this character so far, that she's been really dealing with this. It's like Balin it's like if some guy walked up to you, Taylor, and said like, oh, you can't do a handstand. You're like, yeah, I can. Yeah, it's like, not your whole life hasn't been defined because you can't do a handstand, but all of a sudden Ahsoka is like, like she's struggling with, it just kind of makes her feel weak-minded that this one guy says one thing and she's like, my whole line is death and destruction. I wish they just layered that throughout the whole show then, because they haven't really.
Let me change then my statement. So yes, he implies the death and destruction, and it's not so much an episode focusing on her guilt as it is her, like I mentioned before, understanding her this death and destruction notion is her ability to survive, and how this episode serves as, again, and they even blatantly display it here, how she's going to continue on even to train Sabine and that legacy, and how she's maybe won't teach Sabine about death and destruction or just being a soldier, but just she's going to teach Sabine about how to survive and how to be that leader and how to pass on these things to even her apprentices she might take on down the road. So I think that those are kind of the qualities that Ahsoka was taking in while convening with Anakin throughout all of this, because you do make some good points about the sense of her not really experiencing the guilt, and if there was guilt, that should have been very much
This was the
blatant
time.
throughout.
This
was the time, but it should
yeah.
have been blatantly displayed, not blatantly, but displayed throughout all the previous episodes and other mediums getting to this point, which we didn't necessarily see. So I do think, though, that maybe it does serve as not necessarily a guilt episode for her, but just an episode that is helping her understand a better way to train Sabine, a better position to be herself, and just to kind of accept things more as they are, instead of harboring onto the past a little bit, which this episode displays.
I guess, but that's the weird thing too, that I guess I'm down for those themes, and I think they touch upon them. I just don't think in the previous episodes that they made them big enough themes to feel like they're concluded, or they were like, this feels like this is the kind of finale of those themes, but it really feels like it's just getting started. Like, we still even know very little about why Ahsoka and Sabine stopped continuing to train together, right? We've just got little blurbs, like they haven't had a big sit down conversation. So I think that's a issue for me, that I think that's those themes you mentioned are correct in a sense, but I just don't think there was enough. Even in this show, Anakin's gone by like the 20-minute mark, and I was very surprised. I was like, I thought we were gonna, if we weren't getting a whole episode, at least it'd be like a half and half. And I guess you could kind of say it's half and half because it's about 49 minutes, so somewhere in there. But I mean, like, even I guess more so. So I just felt like what the time they had Anakin with on a pure storytelling level, not the coolness vibes, because we can talk about that, but just pure storytelling. I think they just kind of missed the mark, and I think it could have been a lot bigger. And I think it's one of these things that it's hype right now, but I think it will wear off the same way as like people are coming around. Like last week, there's a big thing to like Luke on Boba Fett of really like, oh, this was kind of a bummer actually, of like everything with like how he looks and the Grogu thing and with being on Boba Fett. Like that, I don't think people will come around and say this is a bummer, but I think it won't have a lasting impact that you'll remember other than like, oh, cool, we got to see Hayden Christensen in the Clone Wars armor. You know, I think they could have used a lot more time with him and a lot more just clear, like I said, clarity on what they wanted to do with him and Ahsoka, because I just don't think that the conflict that they were hitting with is indicative of her overall story that she's been going through right now. And that's even a bit of it too, that people complain about that too, where they joke that this is a show that's called Ahsoka, but it's featuring Ahsoka. That's maybe my complaint, where maybe we needed a bit more beforehand, you know, in some of these episodes, because again, people talk about, and I'm not a big stickler for this, but even just story wise, we really didn't move that far, like in the story at all, really. You know, like Ahsoka just found out, oh, we're gonna go on this whale and go find Ezra and Sabine, and then Hera's gonna talk to the New Republic, and that was about it. So to me, it's like the character stuff wasn't really there. The story stuff moved very slowly. You get the cool factor, so you do have that. I think they need more time beforehand then if they were gonna do these, because I just don't think we've had enough time with Ahsoka to hit on these things. And of course, we're bringing in stuff from Rebels and Clone Wars, but I don't know. I think it was, and like I said, I didn't need them to keep fighting with the lightsabers. I think they overdid that for me. I know people want to see that, and they kind of did what we said, where I said, oh, they do the Vader and Ahsoka thing. He didn't hit her as Vader, but like he had the suit on. So again, it's cool stuff, but I just think that I would have much rather them had those conversations instead of just like, kill me, I'm not gonna kill you, and then Anakin like smiles and it's like, oh, okay. Like it just feels very. To comparison, right? Luke and Dagobah, when he goes in the cave, he fights Vader, cuts off his head, and it's Luke's face, right? And that is a very simple, like literally telling you, like, hey, Luke is Darth Vader, Darth Vader's fault. Like, it's really laying the groundwork for get it. Like, there's a connection. But the difference for me is that's like a minute and a half scene. It's very quick. You get the point. Whereas they kept like overdoing the like, well, we got Hayden, so let's like have him fight Ahsoka and stuff. So I just wish again there was more conversation, even if there is like it's not him, it's just a projection of her mind, which that will be the debate. I just wish there was more there instead of just like, oh, you're not getting it, fight me. And someone's gonna be like, well, that's Anakin's way. Yeah, but when you do it 3 times in a row, it kind of loses its, I don't know, importance.
But it wasn't 3 times in a row though. Like,
no,
she passed
but like,
the
okay,
first
within
step.
20 minutes. Within 20 minutes, they fought 3 times, which is a lot.
What was the third time? Because I think they only fought twice.
No, they fight at the beginning, and then they fight when she has the swords. Like, it bleeds into the other one, but it fights when she has the double swords on Geonosia, and then when she gets pushed back in the smoke, they start talking. That's when he's like doing the switching back and forth between Vader and Anakin. So 2 and 3 are kind of combined. But then it's just fine. Then the majority of the time it's still just them fighting, you know, and that's where I just like.
But that's
cool.
Again, it's not just solely them fighting. It's her kind of going back and falling back on what she's trying to learn here, and I think
but what? Like, what is she like? What does the fighting do? Like, what is she trying to learn here? It's just like
she's trying
not
to override. She's trying to override just this lesson of survivability, I guess you could say, and just what Anakin's trying to explain. Like, as they're going through, and she does that first fight, and she kind of works with that, and she's fighting to survive, I guess, in this moment. And
she's not. The first sequence. But remember the first fight, she gets the better of Anakin. He's like, you know, I learn everything. And he swipes it, so it's just like, it's not like he had her pinned down. It's like first fight, she like kind of won the sparring lesson. He had to cheat by like hitting the whatever the floor is. So it's like, again, like even the first fight, it's like I feel like the point, I get it's just weird that the point was like for her not to strike Anakin down, but it's just why is that a point? Like, Ahsoka kills people all the time, like
because that's what sets her apart from what she was being instructed here. Like, hey, you're not just a soldier, you're not just following orders. Like, you know how to survive, and you can make that decision that makes you different from Anakin and what Anakin did, and it comes down to your choices. And I think that's what Balin comes into play here. Like, oh, you're just like your master, death and destruction. I keep saying it, but that's kind of the go-to.
But again, like I talked about last week, there's no line of Ahsoka being responsible for death or destruction in Rebels or Clone Wars. She's not like a
no. Then there isn't.
savage,
They're
dangerous
riding
Jedi.
They're riding that. Like they're not blatantly saying it or showing it, but they're basically using Anakin's experience and Anakin as a character to show that and create this dilemma within Ahsoka, I would say.
So they just, I don't know, they create this dilemma for like 20 minutes of the show and then it's already resolved. I just think that for me, it's not up to par storytelling with what they could have done. And I don't think it's even the story they were telling this season. The story was about her being a better master. And I think this helps like a little bit, but I think it's just muddled with her, like, because he's not, in my opinion, just the vision of Anakin. He's not doing this like make her better master. He never once says that. He's like just doing it so she'll choose to survive. Because they even have Ahsoka be like, well, what if we just stop fighting? So like they're trying to imply this almost like weathered, like, oh, I just wish it was over. But she's never been that way before. She's always been like on the front line, except in this, the original trilogy. She's fucking missing somewhere. She's in the second or third line. But I just think that it's just weird that it's not focused around her future journey. It's focused on her surviving, which we all know she's going to survive. So I think they should tackle something a little bit different. I just think they should have tied it way more to he was her master, but like you said, he's trying to say you don't have to be like me. But 5 minutes later, he's like, this is what we do. We're soldiers. So it's a strange, and I get that's a flashback, in this world, but it's just conflating because then you have other Anakin here being like saying different things. It's just, and then it gets a little more complicated if this is her mind, because it's her mind telling her this. So it's just like, why are these messages all over? I just think there's something that they're trying to go for there, but it's like very, very muddy. I don't think they executed it 100%, which always for Filoni for me is always 50-50, because he always does something amazing and they did something like, I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely took it a different way. This is classic Cantina conversations, though.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I just don't think it did anything to really move the story forward. Because like I said, it created it gave an issue. Because I'm just I know you say Balin saying that line last week. Okay, he says that line. Let's just incorporate it in this episode. To me, they gave us an issue to start in the episode and then end in the episode, and there's not too much repercussions other than like Ahsoka went on a crazy journey, and it wasn't even that crazy. It was 20 minutes and that was it. Cool stuff happened, but we can move on to that because we're at a standstill there. But everyone knows where we are. Where Taylor got some stuff out of me. I think they wasted a little bit, because I don't think you can just bring Hayden back again. I don't want that. Like this was the one and done. So I think it's like
I think you could bring him back in a more real confirmed setting, like, oh, here's his actual Force ghost or something.
Yeah, I guess
he
so.
Can allude to their little dream sequence they had together or something like that.
Yeah. But when we did get those, because that's where we did get the cool stuff. So yeah, we start off with him and Ahsoka, and they're talking about he has to keep teaching her, and she's like, oh, I don't need to learn anything. And then he swipes the floor. It's like World Between Worlds, whatever spacescape it is. And then she falls down. Second, we got some like sand or like some orange and some dirt. I'm like, okay, or just some clouds. I'm like, I think I know what we're doing here. And then, yeah, you get young Ahsoka played by, what's her name? She's young Gamora, and she's also in Barbie. So Arena Greenblatt. She's having a hell of a year. And she's in 65. I forgot about that. So I think you can already see by her popping in a lot of stuff, you're going to see this actress in a lot of things for the next 10, 15, 20 years, because clearly talent agencies like her and stuff, and she's done 2 things with Disney already. So yeah, I think you're going to see her a lot. She's making a big name for herself already at a young age, so that's good for her. And she was good. I thought she was a fantastic as far as the performance for young Ahsoka. Again, all the gripes I have are more on the message, but the production of it, for the most part, I think Hayden actually looked a lot better this episode, because everyone kind of said that this, like last episode, he kind of had like an Instagram filter on. I agree, like kind of the pre you up, and there's times where you couldn't even notice it at all. Even when he had his short hair, it's like, man, he just looks like Attack the Clones plus 5 years. I think that was really well done. Didn't take me out of it, so that was good. But yeah, I think the Ahsoka, Ariana there did a fantastic job as young Ahsoka, and that was that all that stuff was great. We went back there. We got to see Hayden Christensen in the Clone Wars outfit, which everyone wanted. I actually thought for a second we were going to get Obi-Wan. I was actually really hoping, because I'm like, if we're getting the fan service, because we talked about it last week and we got 2 out of the 3, because like, oh, imagine if they go back. But so this stuff again for me, putting the message side, I liked the production of it. Look, obviously it's a sound stage, but to me it looked good enough. The other movies were all CGI, so it's not showing everything, but I liked it. I think there's a good atmosphere of war. I think visually, for the most part, there's some good shots. There's a good shot of like, it's like on Ahsoka's back and it's zooming out and it's showing all the clone troopers and the stuff, and you're seeing Anakin in the distance with his blue lightsaber. There's one good shot too where he's running and he's like turning in between Vader and Anakin. So, and that's where I thought the episode was gonna get really good. And that, I think that's another problem with me, where she's like, oh well, we know like you were more dangerous than we thought, and he just goes, let's go again. Like that's the problem with it being in our mind, and maybe I prefer Force Ghosts, is he just like ignores that he was Vader. Like he just doesn't want to talk about it at all, really. So I was kind of hoping for that, but no, I thought she was great. There was lots of cool stuff in here. I know you're creaming your jeans on a lot of things, but yeah, I think this is, if you're a prequel fan, this was definitely something you're looking for.
Yeah, this just was mind-boggling. The realization of seeing like, oh my god, that's not adult Ahsoka, that's Padawan Ahsoka. Oh my goodness. And you just instantly, it clicks. I was just trying to like figure out where we are. Obviously this is Ryloth in that first sequence, which is just so wonderful.
And it's weird to try and think of her in the animated series, because I know she's like a younger kid, but like she doesn't feel like this young. But now when I think about the Clone Wars, like I have to picture as like this young, I guess, when she's in the first few seasons of Clone Wars. So that was kind of a trip too.
Her bickering with Anakin too felt very Clone Wars-y.
Yes,
like it's just
that was on par.
Oh yeah, it's just incredible how they transferred this animation aesthetic into live action the way they did. It was great. And yeah, I totally agree with what you said. Anakin just looked like he was 5 years ahead out of Attack of the Clones, so to speak, even though I guess it'd be like 3 years ish. 2 years, yeah, because the 3-year war. It just was wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. When it transitions and she's a little bit older, and I was not like, there was a split second of me that thought, oh my god, are we gonna get a live action sequence of her surviving Order 66? I would just go into cardiac arrest in my living room. I wouldn't be able to handle it. That would have been the icing on top. Arrest. But that did not happen, obviously. But we did get to see her on the Siege of Mandalore, and immediately she was fighting like some Gar Saxon lookalike, just a Darth Maul a Darth Maul commando, whatever you want. I can't remember what they're called. Oh, just the Mandalorian armor, the horns on his helmet. I was like, oh, this is so cool! Holy shit! To like touch upon like your scene here. This is Anakin.
Yeah.
Ryloth phase 2, or sorry, phase 1.
Oh, you should use that as a thumbnail. That's not spoiler enough.
Yeah, no kidding. The clone troopers too, no CGI. They're all real suits. I am so in love. I'm so in love. And then it transitions into this, like with the quick flashes. It's like, oh, that is so cool, so cool. I was just bouncing all over. And then of course we got Rex in both armor sets, in his phase 1 and phase 2, and you know the Merson, the voice, Tamara Morrison's voice, just popping in there as well. Oh, there's just some juicy stuff. Everything about that was great. And then when Ahsoka turns on her lesson and Anakin just kind of force kicks her out, and all of a sudden he ignites his lightsaber and it's red. Anakin with a red lightsaber looks so cool. I feel like that's like a skin they've done in a few video games. Maybe
I imagine
like,
so, yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a cool look to it. So that was crazy. This is his eyes were like Sith eyes again, which I always enjoyed the Sith eyes thing. Other people probably aren't a big fan of that, but it's just
why do you think
so
people
good.
are?
I've seen people complain about like, why is his eyes turning all like yellow and stuff like that. So people have commented on it before. I remember when I was young, I dressed up as Anakin. Sith Anakin for Halloween once, and people were like, why are your eyes all yellow? Because I did some like yellow on my eyes and stuff like that. And like, well, it's like in the movie, you know, he's dark side, and like, oh, it's stupid. People used to make fun of me for that, but anyways,
I don't know why. I don't know. That's never bugged me. It's like Palpatine has that, Maul has that a little bit. Like Kylo Ren, yeah, he's getting angry. Kylo Ren, like Ben Solo never had it, but he had like a really weird turn, right? Because like he didn't like Anakin decides just to kill Mace Windu. That's not what Ben Solo did. He he was like Luke attacked him, right? And like in his mind he attacked him. So that's where he like turned out of necessity.
Luke definitely attacked him. That was all self-defense. It was the Jedi way as far
Well,
as
no,
Ben Solo's
no,
concerned.
but like he was like if you look at the story, he wasn't attacking him, right? He was about to he was about to dismantle and walk away, but Ben Solo woke up when he hadn't like turned his lightsaber off. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you look at his turn, and remember, even he didn't get to do the Force choke till the till Last Jedi. I feel like that's why he never. I guess they could have made him and Rise of Skywalker get those eyes, but he never was really like truly evil. He was almost more just being manipulated in the dark side, you know, where Anakin, Palpatine, Maul, like I guess Maul doesn't have yellow eyes, but he has some different eyes going on. I'm completely fine with the yellow eyes. I think it's a good look. So,
Yeah, so him just looking super Sithly was fantastic. Really, really liked everything about that. It's hard to believe that we actually got this sequence. I'm going to be rewatching it again and again and again, probably another 2,000 times just to soak in this live action Clone Wars sequence because it was just absolutely incredible. Just absolutely wonderful. Holy shit.
yeah, no, like I said, I don't know if I have too much more to add on it. There was the clone troopers. Like I don't have the affinity that Taylor does, but it's cool seeing them updated here. Lots of good battles. not really like a bunch. It's just like it's the one we all know, and like I said, I think I liked the vibe they were going for. It was cool seeing Anakin with the red lightsaber. He did have the scar, as last week, like we said. Yeah, it was a little too dark to see, but he did have the scar. No, it was all like I said. I still enjoyed it. Still was a good time. I can always go two brains on this as far as, and even then the stuff that I have issues with as far as the writing, it's not like awful. It's just that I think they could have done a lot better. But I think this all served its purpose. It was a good like trip down memory lane. Like I said, I could have used a little more. I think. Oh, excuse me. The good thing that they didn't do, which this is what we can finally talk about now, because we didn't talk about this on predictions, and there's like mixed reporting if it was true or if it was cut. Now, I don't necessarily need this version. I do now. I wish a part of it was there. That there was a rumor going around that they were gonna do the battle on Mustafar, and it was gonna be Ahsoka versus Anakin, and it would have been like a what if Ahsoka was there instead of Obi-Wan. I didn't need it to be on Mustafar. I said on Taylor where I thought that could be very fan servicey, and I think there was already enough of that in this episode. I think there was, and like I said, there's rumors that was actually filmed and was cut. So if there was film, I think for the fans, put that in the deleted scenes, but. I think for me, it's just I wish I would have got that. That's another thing that is lacking. I wish there was a bit more on the Ahsoka Vader thing, and it is tricky because it's not Anakin, but it doesn't matter. We force project stuff all the time, like for us or in the shows. So, but yeah, were you disappointed all by that rumor if it was true that they cut the Mustafar scene if they filmed that?
I totally forgot about it, so
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't make or break it for me. Like they could have slid something like that in. It wouldn't have been a takeaway. I would have gotten a real big enjoyment out of it. I forgot to mention too, like that, and if there was a point where they could have done it and implemented it, I feel like it could have been somewhere in between when he was marching out of like the dream sequence, red lightsaber, and he's going into the world between worlds, and like as Ahsoka's on the ground. And you see like Anakin walking, and it's like quick flashes of lightning, and he changes to Vader walking closer to her and back to Anakin. That was goosebumps. I really thought we were gonna get full Vader suit at that point, just fighting Ahsoka, which
I thought so
pretty
too.
Juicy.
Yeah. Well, let's take our next ad break, and we'll be right back and talk more about this episode. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So is there anything more to say on Anakin, Ahsoka, the flashbacks, anything right now before we move on to the rest of it?
Oh, nothing that I can think of.
Okay. So then you got Hera and Jason, and then you got, I can't remember that guy from Mandalorian. He's always around. And you got Chopper
Carson.
and then the droid I could never remember and stuff. So
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang. Actually, let's answer this question before we move on because it's about Anakin. So Force Ghosts can appear in the world between worlds, and it stretches across time. That means literally any Force Ghost can from any time appear there, right? Or is it just an Anakin thing? I think there's two ways you could do it. You could say that I'm not a fan of this. You can say, yes, it's just Anakin, because everyone always says he's the most powerful of all time. So if you're subscribed to that, sure. I think I am in Taylor's route. Well, I don't think this is. I think it'd still be the world between worlds, but I think it is more just through like Ahsoka's mind. And even then, we could say like the only other time, which this is what I was saying. I like that we can still have this debate, right, of the world between worlds and what it is, and was this Anakin? Was it a mind thing? I definitely am all in Taylor's camp that I do think it's mostly just through her point of view. But you could argue that is a something of Anakin, right? That's a version of Anakin, some Force, whatever. It's up to your point of view. Same thing, the world between worlds. It's tough that I don't like the time travel. I know Filoni says it's not time travel. I don't know why he's George, but like I go, okay, BS. I think it kind of is, but. Either way, that's not fully explained, so you can kind of have some middle ground. And then my last point is I think I forgot it. What was shit? I said about the oh fuck. What we were saying, like if any ghost can travel anytime, then no, because if it's just her point of view, it's just her seeing Anakin, right? Now I fully remembered. The only other time we've seen the world between worlds is with two living characters, right? Ahsoka and Ezra bumped into each other. So at the same time, you could say that if Ezra was just there alone and there was no Ahsoka, he could have saw something else, right? Like a Force vision or some Jedi. So that's where it's like, I'm sure it's happened in the past. I'm sure they'll do a show or maybe, but with Ahsoka, this is the first time maybe she's been there alone and not bumped into anybody else. Like last time because time's not linear. I don't know. It gets really murky. But I'm just saying that if she's in the world between worlds alone, that maybe her thought is putting things out there. Or yes, a Jedi could contact. I still like that to me, and I don't even know if it's the official rule. I still think that a Force ghost should only really appear to those that have connections to them. I'm fine with the voices, like when Rey heard the voices in episode 9. But I think for like Yoda to appear to her, it's kind of like, well, then just like anybody could train her, really, right? Like you'd just go into a library and get all the Jedi. I think you should have some personal connection. But do you have anything to add on A.R. Riddleroom's question?
I mean, if you look at it like a Force ghost can appear in the world between worlds, and stretches across time. Like Force ghosts are good, but I don't think it's limited to that. We have to remember that who just whipped open the world between worlds gateway on their end? Just good old Sheev Palpatine. I mean, the Sith, they can just whip things open however they want, I guess. Of course, his access to it was limited. He needed Ezra to open it up to some degree, but yeah, I just think that with the world between worlds, it opens up the possibility for a lot of different things to happen. But the Star Wars fan base, I don't believe is ready for that kind of thing yet. I think that we need to be very basic in how we explore this concept. And I think Rebels does a great job at keeping it very linear, but touching upon every point in the trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the original and the sequel trilogy. So I'm glad that from how it looks in my perspective, at least, that this interpretation of the world between worlds is again produced in her mind and it's not actually her being there. Now there's something else going on here with the Force because Jason was obviously hearing the lightsabers clash and whatnot. So do I ever need an explanation on that? Sure, throw me a comic book, in a year or so from whatever. But I mean, I don't need one right now. I'm totally okay with this just being in her mind and some, Force related instance. I can't hear Travis talking.
I didn't say anything. I was coughing.
Oh, okay.
I think I just laughed at something you said, but that was about it. But it just seems like a very plot holey cool. It seems very plot holey cool concept, but like Marvel multiverse, they need to define rules. Yeah, but who knows if they do it, right? It's just that's the thing. And I agree. Overall, the concept of multiverse or time travel, I don't need that in Star Wars. I don't like that. So again, I'm in a way where I still think that I don't need the Star Wars what if stories to be like in the thousands of multiverse. Just fucking say, hey, we're doing what if stuff. Like we're gonna have some fun here. We don't need a canon reason for that, right? The same reason why I feel like not every book and video game and TV show should have been canon, but here we are. So we'll see. I will give Taylor kind of like half points because last week, because before you said they weren't going to go back to World Between Worlds, and to me, I feel like they went back there to use it as like a setting, but they didn't like use it. It's like you went to the movie theaters, but you didn't watch a movie. Like she didn't time travel or pull anybody out from time.
And it's good because that's just it. If they were to time travel, it's a whole other can of worms that they have to explain within 3 episodes. And I think it's just people are gonna be like, oh, this is a cool, weird, like daydreaming kind of background, and I think that's great. If you want to know more about it, people can go watch Rebels. But we didn't have to tap into it and explore it in here and confuse the viewers in the GA.
And for anyone else, it's just going to act as what Luke went through on Dagobah, what Rey went through kind of a few times, but I'd say in Last Jedi in the cave there. Like, that's what happens with Jedis, right? They have some sort of space LCD trip and somebody's talking to them. So that's the way that they just use that. I think that was kind of like a ploy, but really it could have been anything. It could have just been her, like, passed out and she's in, like, a white train station with Dumbledore and Harry Potter, right? Like, this, the World Between Worlds was almost just like a placeholder for her there. So... yeah, because like obviously you couldn't just have them water, couldn't have them just float and whatnot. But so yeah, no villains this episode, and I guess I was kind of wrong there because I said we would see Thrawn if it was a mix of them, but we got a mix. We didn't see Thrawn, we didn't see any of the villains, so you got that going on. What did you think about Hera and Jason and stuff like that?
There's something about Jason that I don't know. I almost feel like there was one quick scene where he actually like moved his eyes and looked at the camera.
Yeah, he was looking at Chopper, but the way they should have cut it, it looked like he literally looked at the viewer. It's like I think they're trying to insinuate that he was looking at Chopper, but it looked like he was looking right in my soul, and I was like, are we breaking the fourth wall right now?
There's some moments that they hit. And there's other moments where I don't know if it's the way that he was written or if how he's acting it. It's just it really does pull me out. So I'll reserve my stance on that because we'll see how it kind of goes. But I'm pretty optimistic about it because he does kill some scenes so well when Hera is trying to listen to him and listen to Carson, and he's just like, "Mom, just stand here, like listen to the waves," and just that's one of my favorite scenes. I just loved it.
I don't hear shit, Jason. Let's get out of here.
When she stands there, she closes her eyes and she's like, "Okay, what are we hearing, Jason? What are we listening for?" And he's like, "The lightsabers." And then it's calm. You start to hear the lightsaber noises, and you just hear that Force theme kick in, and it's like, oh my god, this is good. This is good. And he just nailed that scene. Again, I really felt like Mary Elizabeth Winstead was just powerhouse as Hera in this episode. I was just so into this. Her performance of this go around, it was just wonderful. I just feel like she's becoming more and more an embodiment of this character. So I was really, really driving with it. Before I forget, though, I have to do one thing here. If I can find it. That's not it. There we go.
Oh, I was going to do it. I was like, if you don't do it, yeah. We had episode 1, Thrawn didn't come. We had episode 2, Thrawn didn't come. Episode 3, he didn't come. Episode 4, he didn't come. And now we're at episode 5, and there's still a lack of coming. Even the World Between Worlds, he didn't come there. He didn't come anywhere. He's like, Sam, I am. So, yeah, we were still in Thrawn Watch 2023. Not that it's like a bold prediction because there's 3 episodes left. I think we're going to get him in the penultimate episode, and you'll get a little bit. Like, I think what you'll do is the ending penultimate's him, and then you get some in the finale, and then he escapes, and then movie, TV show, whatever. But like I said, that's not me being a trash told you because there's 3 episodes left. It's not a bold prediction. I think next week's going to be heavy on Ahsoka's travels. You're going to get Hera probably talking with the New Republic. And then, so maybe there's a chance Thrawn could come. But as of right now, we're still on hashtag Thrawn Watch 2023.
You're going to get a scene of him. They've rescued him. And he's going to be like, okay, time to do this. And he's going to see the whole fleet of Purgle just show up. And he's just going to break. It's going to mentally break the guy.
Or does sometimes he have a weapon and they just kill all the Purgle and Ahsoka's in the ship and painful death. But yeah, so Jason, he's fine. He's
looking at the camera.
Well, in the nicest way it says, he feels definitely more like kid actors of old, right? I feel like we've gotten a lot of kid actors in the past few years. Was like, oh, really, really great. He feels maybe a little inexperienced, a little younger, but that's fine. He's just Jason Solo. I guarantee you when he's training, like maybe in season 2, but we always talk about like Rey's New Order, this and that. I think when he'd be a big character, they'd probably like time jump and get like another actor, right? Like in a House of Dragons situation. That's my thought process. Maybe they don't, but I think he's like fine. I think the Force stuff it's fine because they're hitting on that. They're hitting on it, and we only have a few amount of episodes. It just felt like already of like he dropped the I'm bad feeling, and it's really like he's a Jedi. We got our first Kanan reference this episode where his father's a Jedi. So they're hitting really hard for the non-viewers to be like, hey, he's gonna be a Jedi, or he has the Force, right? So I get that. I don't know how I feel about Hera hearing the waves and the lightsaber sounds. I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. I feel like she could like feel there's something there, but actually hear the noises was a little off to me.
Starts
So
freaking out. Jason, get away from the edge.
yeah. So yeah, their dynamic's fine. I thought it was interesting that she's like, stay here. This is a very weird, like, there's a planet we don't know about. Like, stay close to. First of all, I didn't even when she gets out of the ship. He's like, "Can I come?" She's like, "I guess." I didn't agree to that. And then when they're on the waves, and because when he comes out, she's like, "It's a planet we don't know about, so stay close to Chopper." And I get Chopper can do attacks and everything, but when she's like 10 minutes later, like, "Okay, I'm gonna fly. You can stay here." Why does he not come in the ship? Like, it's just like, I don't know, like, people are missing. You don't know what's out there. What if fucking Balin's hiding behind a tree and like, ah! Like, I just felt she was very careless with this kid.
He's got a connection in that moment. I don't think you want to break it. Did you know that it's estimated that Chopper has killed approximately 50,000 people? So I think
It's not too bad.
He's safe. He's safe watching Jason.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's good enough stuff, but nothing great. You know, it's nothing that like, this Hera and Jason stuff's really good. It's setting the stage for, I think, definitely season 2 or future stories, but nothing more so. Do you think they might be hitting on the Force with them too much right now, like heavy-handed? Because we already got Sabine with the Force, and we got now him. Do you think they should just focus on one of them, or do you think that it's, that's like it is a right amount that they should be focusing on more Force sensitive people?
I think it's the right amount. He's not going around force choking or force pushing or doing like crazy force antics. I mean, even at this point, I feel like Grogu's been using the force more than he has. All Jason has been seen doing is just he has the intuitions and the premonitions, and I like that. It's just the senses and whatnot. So I think that's definitely driving with me. I would like to see him explore a little bit. As you mentioned, Sabine does have the Force, because we saw her do a tiny little like force nudge on Haiti. I can't remember the other part of her name, but Balin's apprentice.
Shin
Haiti. Thank you. Yes.
Shin Haiti.
So yeah, she like did a force like nudge into her face. So.
Yeah. Anything? Do you want to mention anything on Mon Mothma, your boy? I always forget the guy from Mandalorian. He
Carson.
He fend them off a little bit, and he tried to give them some time.
Out of that. Yeah. That his whole dialogue really made me laugh. The Republic ships look pretty cool actually too. I really like that. I do want to shout out Senator Organa made a name drop in this episode. That was pretty cool.
So she knows of Hera, I guess. So
she knows of Hera. She was trying to buy them time with the Senate committee and all that fun stuff. Yeah, seeing Mon Mothma again was always a joy, and it seems like Hera is going to lose her rank. Needs to have Ahsoka there to testify again. I just love all this bullshit with the New Republic. It's just such a
yeah, Hera was saying, I can't remember, there's some line she pushed back. She pushed back against Carson when he said something. It was again like, oh, it's something about trust and just like, oh, we should just trust him like freely. I can't remember, but it was like another line that you always point out where it's like, oh, her questioning the New Republic. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna do a new animated show in between 6 and 7. You know, the Rebels back together, and they're doing all this stuff. You know, but yeah, they're trying to think that going up Mon Mothma, who it was funny when she's like, "Oh, have you found Ahsoka, Sabine? No. Got any proof with Thrawn? No. You got this? No." It's like, well, I really can't help you at all. It did make sense from that point of view, because like obviously we're with our heroes, but it is like well, what are you supposed to do? Like, you literally have no information. There's nothing. All the villains are gone. And you lost
2 pilots too in your unauthorized mission. Like, it's
unauthorized, and you have nothing to show for it. You like even then, it's like, how did you lose them? You can easily say that they force jumped or hyper. What is it? God, why am I forgetting the actual hyperspace jump? Yeah, like, but it's just like all like it's. I'm interested to see, because Mon Mothma felt like she's going pretty easy on her. I kind of hope when she gets back that Hera gets like a lot of shit, because she should, even though our heroes are right, like, because she does have nothing to show for it. So I hope that's setting the stage. But it could go 2 ways. She could get that, but I did worry, because this episode ended with, I think, the moment you're talking about where she gets on the ship, Ahsoka, and there's the Purgles, and she calms them down, and she's kind of force and vibe with them, and they decide to get in the mouth and where they're going, which I like the line of like, do you know where they're going? No, but nowhere is better, or like, where you don't know is better than nowhere, whatever the line she isn't paraphrased, right? So that was good. But my only worry is that she almost felt like she was saying goodbye to Hera in a way of like, us as the viewer. So I hope that's not the case. I hope next week Hera's still in the episode. My worry is that she could be gone for the majority of the 3 because it's going to be about Sabine, the villains, Thrawn, and Ahsoka.
Well,
so
I don't
that's
think
my.
there's anything wrong with that because I feel like as far as like Hera's storyline has been established, she went rogue, and now the New Republic fleet is here, and that's that. We know that she's going to go back. She's going to have to face a tribunal, and maybe we'll get an end scene of Ahsoka coming back to be at her hearing. But there's nothing more I need to see.
She's guilty, Your Honor.
Yeah, there's nothing more that I really need to see from that storyline at this point, and I think that's okay if we commit the next 3 episodes solely to what happens now going into this new galaxy.
I don't think you're not wrong. I think it more comes from so I guess I'm of 2 minds of this one, where it more comes from like I like Winstead and I like Hera, so that's why it's kind of a bummer if I don't get more of her. But it is the show's called Ahsoka, and I guess that could be the reason why they dropped so much Jason being with the Force, right? Because like, well, we're not going to see him that much more. So yeah, I can be more on board with it. It's just that I want a little bit more of her. But yeah, no, I can see that. I can see what you're putting down there. That kind of makes sense. So because I don't know what else she would really do. They've wrote on, and there is a lot to do. So in the interest of, and again, I'm more lenient on this because it's just rumors, but there's rumors of there being a season 2. So that's where it's okay. Well, you can get more Hera here and there and stuff. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, next week I imagine should be pretty villain centric. I'm not saying Ahsoka won't be in it, but I feel like because they weren't in this episode at all, and plus we still got Ezra to deal with, I would imagine, right? Like we still, unless the result is just he's dead, you know, like, and that I am starting to think that's going to be the case, that they find him and he's just dead, like he just died, because I just don't know if there's enough time. And how would you feel if they end the season by, we haven't found Ezra yet, but we're still gonna in season 2? Would you be a little annoyed if like the MacGuffin for season 2 is still we got to find Ezra?
It depends how they progress with this. Now they have to be careful because, well, maybe it could be different because Sabine is not really focused on Thrawn at all. Sabine just wants to find Ezra. So if you have them all grouped together now in this other alternative galaxy, and it's the finale, then you have to make sure it is done in a proper way where if Thrawn gets back to the main galaxy and he's leading the war, that you have Sabine and Ahsoka not thinking like, oh, let's just stick around then. Well, let them deal with Thrawn. We're going to go find Ezra. It doesn't work like that. And maybe that'll create an interesting rift because you have this character break between Sabine and Ahsoka, this relationship break, I should say, where Ahsoka is firmly like, hey, if Ezra needs to stay lost to prevent Thrawn from coming back, that needs to be done. And now clearly Sabine is like, hey, if Thrawn has to come back and that's how I'm going to get Ezra, that clearly needs to be done. So you're going to get a very interesting dynamic folding between the two of them, especially because I'm assuming Sabine thinks Ahsoka is dead. And so Sabine just took her next best option, was like, okay, well, Ahsoka's dead. I'm going to go
absolutely,
find my
because
friend.
she saw her go up that cliff, right, in the water,
Yes.
and you know, it was a large fall. So again, I agree with that. At the same time, she's still at Hera. So when Balin's like, you have no one, I guess Sabine's not that close with Hera and Jason, because she's like, yeah, I do have no one. Fuck, I don't give a shit about Hera. I'm just gonna go and find Ezra, because she wasn't dead or anything. She was just hanging out with the New Republic on her way. But I guess they're not that close after all. So yeah, we will be. And sorry, anything else to touch upon in this episode before we end it off? Sorry.
I don't think so. I have to rewatch it. I might just go and rewatch it again tonight because it was just
No
so
surprise.
good.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, let us know. Jump on our Discord because that's gonna be hot and heavy the next few days and stuff. I'm excited because it already seems like there's a mix. There's some love in there, but there's already people. You know, when people agree with me, that's when I know it's mixed. Even when Fanboy Clay's like, "Hey, I don't disagree," I go, "Okay, there's some mix," and you know that's not a bad thing. There's gonna be. I think overall, it's still like a win episode. It's still a good episode. I'm interested to see how this goes going forward. Like I said, just not the home run I was hoping for, but I think that, you know, it provided a lot of good moments, and I think a lot of people will be happy, so that's a good thing. So it's one of those good but not good enough, but that's okay. And Taylor obviously says he's about to go back and watch it again, so he's loving it. But
Peak
yeah,
Star Wars.
I can't get. You think it's better than Rogue One and Andor and stuff?
Oh, I mean, Rogue One is very different in its context and what
But
its
peak Star
messaging
Wars is what
conveys.
is number,
Um,
what's up there.
But
You know?
for me as a Star Wars fan, this definitely is. I need Kirkland to watch this show. Like Kirkland was here for all the other shit. He's here for Boba Fett. He's here for all the other jazz, and now he's not here for this.
I would be interested, but I think Kirkland will agree with me on this one. Considering where he fell on Kenobi and Mando and Boba Fett, me and him, I think he definitely has. He doesn't go as hard on it as his dislike on something, but I think he'll definitely go like, yeah, that wasn't the greatest. We'll have to see when he watches, but I feel like when he watches this, because I'm in the camp where I said you have to. I told him last week, like, oh, you got to catch up. I would now be in the camp of telling, you don't have to catch up. Like you can, but I don't think it's like you got to rush because like I don't think that the Hayden stuff really results to too much other than cool shit. And he hasn't watched Clone Wars, so I feel like he's not gonna have the reverence
that's the
for
other
it.
thing too. Without watching
Yeah.
Clone Wars, it's not going to be as emotional and
Yeah,
heavy.
so I think he'd probably be a bit more in line with me, but we'll find out because he said he's going to be watching them soon. So he has to fucking record some lines too, Kirkland. Kirkland's mom, if you're listening to this, just text Kirkland, say you got to record your ADR. Kirkland knows I'm talking about. You know, he's moved in now a couple weeks. Come on, let's go. We're making a movie now. I need some lines, but no, we got a lot of time. We're all good. We got no clock. But yeah, we'll be back next week, at least me and Taylor for the same time. Episode 6 leading into that ultimate episode. What will Ahsoka do? Who will we see? Will we meet Ezra? Will Thrawn come? We'll talk about all those things next week.
I forgot. I had to slip this in real quick before we go to next week. That end sequence with the Purgles going through space and just the Finding Nemo moment, that was just beautiful, cinematically astounding.
That's
just
Finding Nemo,
incredible.
yeah.
That's
I was wondering where that was coming from because it's like Grab Shell or whatever. That's
going
what
to
you're
San
talking about?
Francisco. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Imagine if they just like jumped and they killed all the ships too, like like the whales. And Mom Off's like, "What the hell happened over there? Like you
The
lost
holo
everybody."
maneuver thing. Where they sliced through all the ships.
The whales don't care at all. They just go and stuff. So, and Ahsoka just gets swallowed, and that's it. And Ezra's dark side, and they go, "Yeah, this is what happened." But yeah, we'll find out what happens next week, and at least we know for sure it won't be boring. And may the Force be with you.
Always.